So I want to start with a question, and it might feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Have you ever realized, I mean, in a really honest moment, that you know more about the daily routine of some stranger you follow online, like what they eat, where they get their coffee, what the rug looks like, than you do about your own best friend? Or even yourself?
It's a jarring thing when it hits you. We spend hours, studying these curated archives of other people's lives.
And we don't even realize we're doing it. It's worse than that, for me at least. I caught myself the other day scrolling my own profile, looking at photos from like 3 years ago.
Right.
And I felt this weird pang of jealousy. I was jealous of me, or the 2021 version of me anyway.
That specific feeling is, it's actually central to what we're digging into today. The source material we have calls it digital idolatry.
Which sounds so, I don't know, biblical.
It does, but the way the researchers frame it is incredibly modern. It's all about where we direct our worship. And in the digital age, attention is the form that worship takes.
Attention is worship. Wow, that is a heavy opener. Welcome back, everyone. Today we are unpacking a whole stack of research on our relationship with social media, but we're doing it through kind of a dual lens.
Right, we have a theory on one side.
Exactly. This analysis titled The Demise of Digital Idolatry, which gives us the why. And then we're pairing it with a really fascinating case study, a video diary from a vlogger.
Two souls talking. And this case study is just so crucial because it's not just data points. It's a raw, Monday-to-Monday log of a complete social media blackout.
No Instagram, no scrolling, just existing.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, it's not one of those pretty aesthetic digital detox posts you see. It is messy. There's boredom, withdrawal. There are wasps.
We will get to the wasps.
We will get to the wasps. But our mission today isn't just to say, phones are bad. We want to get under the hood to understand the machinery. We're talking about planning validation, the dopamine void, and this really profound idea that the divine cannot communicate through noise.
I think we have to start with that first concept you mentioned, digital idolatry. Because the source makes a pretty aggressive argument right out of the gate.
It does.
It basically suggests that if you have the time to put a complete stranger on a pedestal, to obsess over their life, it's really just a symptom of a vacuum in your own.
It's that idea that we're outsourcing our lives, isn't it?
In a way, yes. But more specifically, we're outsourcing our thinking. The source calls the internet collective noise chaos. And when you're immersed in that, you start adopting beliefs and desires that, well, they aren't actually yours. You think you're forming an opinion, but you're often just downloading a program.
The algorithm is feeding you a worldview.
Exactly. And it's so efficient at it that we mistake that consumption for critical thinking.
That distinction is terrifying, mistaking consumption for thinking. But I want to go back to what I said earlier, being jealous of my past self. The analysis calls this idolizing the self.
And this is one of the more insidious traps. Think about Instagram highlights.
Yeah.
You curate the absolute peak moments of your life, the vacations, the good hair days, the parties, and you freeze them right there at the top of your profile.
So when I look at them, I'm not really seeing my life. I'm seeing like a movie trailer for a movie that doesn't actually exist.
You're seeing a digital avatar. And the problem is when you compare your current, messy, unedited reality, where you're tired or stressed or just bored, against that polished reel.
The present can never compete with the edit.
It can't. So you start craving a past that wasn't even real to begin with. It prevents you from just accepting the now.
It splits you in two, the real you and this digital idol you've built. And this feeds right into the next term from the text that I really want to dig into, planning validation.
Planning validation, it creates this fascinating and frankly damaging feedback loop in the brain. It's the act of living a moment for the post.
We've all done this. You're at a concert or a nice dinner, and part of your brain is already framing the photo, writing the caption.
But look at the psychological cost of that. The source argues that when you're doing that, you aren't actually in the experience.
You're performing it.
You are performing the experience. You are treating your life like a stage play for an audience that, let's be honest, barely cares. The source says posting is basically asking the public, do you approve of this?
And if they don't like it or even see it, does that mean the experience wasn't valid?
That is the subconscious implication, yeah. If the tree falls in the forest and nobody likes the reel, did it even happen? Experiences stop being things that fill your emotional cup. They just become content.
We're mining our own lives for resources to trade for attention.
That is a bleak image, isn't it?
It really is.
But it explains the burnout. You are
Yeah.
constantly working even when you think you're playing.
So that's the diagnosis. We're trapped in this performance. But now I want to pivot to the mechanism. Like, why can't we stop? And this is where the vlogger, Two Souls Talking, gives us such a vivid picture of the addiction.
The dopamine loop.
Her description of the speed of content was really striking. She calls it a sickening cycle. And she's talking about short-form video. TikToks, Reels.
The emotional whiplash.
Right. She describes scrolling from a video that is absolute heartbreaking, a tragedy, a war zone, and then you flick your thumb, and 1 second later...
A prank. A cat falling off a table. A dance trend.
And you laugh. You literally switch from devastation to amusement in under 3 seconds.
Just think about what that does to your brain. We're not evolved to process that much emotional variance that quickly. The vlogger, she notes this, forces the brain to just discard the sadness. You have to numb yourself to the tragedy to enjoy the comedy that's coming next.
It's like it's training us to disconnect from genuine feeling.
It's emotional numbing practice.
Yeah.
Every time you swipe away from something difficult to get to something easy, you are reinforcing a neural pathway that says, when things get hard, disconnect. It trains us to just disregard human emotion for the next dopamine hit.
And speaking of that hit, she also touches on the comparison trap with an example that really, really landed for me. She talks about seeing someone on a run on Instagram stories.
A classic example of what the text calls fake comparisons. She sees a sneaker on pavement and immediately just spirals into guilt.
Why aren't I running? I'm lazy. I should be doing more.
Even though, as she points out herself, she has zero context. That runner could have spent the last 6 days on the couch eating pizza for all she knows.
Or they could be running away from their problems. We don't know.
We don't. And we compare our entire internal reality, all our doubts, our fatigue, our whole 24 hours against a single curated millisecond of someone else's life. It is mathematically impossible to feel good after that comparison.
So she sees this toxicity. She decides to pull the plug. A full week, Monday to Monday, deletes the apps. And she admits it was not easy.
She talks about it like a literal chemical addiction. The withdrawal she describes on Monday and Tuesday is just textbook.
She set a limit on YouTube, right? Because she kept that one for work. But she just blew right past the 3-hour limit.
Ended up using it for 5 or 6 hours.
She even talks about falling asleep while trying to meditate. She was so desperate for stimulation that when she tried to just pee, her brain basically shut down.
And then there's the phantom scroll. Did you catch that detail?
Yes. She kept unlocking her phone and tapping the empty spot on her screen where the Instagram icon used to be.
That is pure muscle memory. It's deep in the basal ganglia. It shows the behavior isn't even a conscious choice anymore. It's a reflex.
It's like reaching for a limb that's been amputated. So she struggles through those first couple days, but then she hits this turning point, and for me, this was the biggest aha moment of the whole thing. She realizes that 24 hours is long.
24 hours is a pretty long time for humans. That's the quote. When you remove the time-dilating effect of the scroll, the day just stretches out.
And we've all been there. You sit there to check your phone for 5 minutes, and suddenly an hour is just gone. It's a time machine that only goes to the future.
It's a flow state, but a junk flow state. You're not creating anything, you're just consuming. When she removed that, she suddenly had to confront the sheer volume of time she had.
And she had to fill it. Her list of activities was fascinating because of how normal they were. She cleaned her room a lot.
Cleaning is a classic displacement activity, but it's also about reclaiming control over your physical environment. When the digital one is gone, the physical one gets a lot louder.
She started writing poetry, which she hadn't done in 3 years. She bought a book at a thrift store for $3, Hardwiring Happiness.
Which is just too perfect. But notice the cognitive difference there. Writing poetry requires deep, sustained attention. Scrolling requires short, rapid-fire attention. By removing the cheap dopamine, her brain began to recover its capacity for the slow dopamine of creativity.
She also watched movies. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, The Guilty, and a Tyler Perry movie.
I thought the choice of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs was interesting. It's a comfort movie. When your nervous system is detoxing from that high-stress, high-comparison world, it often craves safety. It's self-soothing without the algorithm.
But it wasn't a straight line to enlightenment. Saturday sounded really rough. She just felt lazy, exhausted, stayed in bed all day.
And her first reaction was guilt. But the sources say we need to reframe that. That wasn't laziness. That was a detox crash.
Like when you stop drinking coffee and get a headache.
Exactly. Social media is a stimulant. It keeps the nervous system in a constant state of low-grade arousal. always checking, always comparing. When you cut that cord, the body finally realizes it's safe to unclench. That exhaustion was her body finally taking the rest it had been denied for years.
It was necessary.
Absolutely.
So she pushes through the crash, and this brings us to the result, the payoff, the stillness. This is where this deep dive gets almost spiritual, but in a very grounded way.
The shift in her sensory processing is what stood out to me. Without the collective noise, she became hyper-aware of the physical world.
She said the air felt like fall. She saw a hummingbird 5 times in one day. She saw a wasp and was actually scared of it, not just numb to it.
Which raises the question, were there always hummingbirds there? Probably. But she finally had the mental bandwidth to perceive them.
And this connects to that really profound concept from the research. The divine cannot communicate through noise. I want to just sit with that for a second. Even if you're not religious, there's a deep psychological truth in that, isn't there?
Absolutely. Whether you call it the divine or intuition or your subconscious, that inner voice is quiet, whispers, the algorithm screens. And if your mind is constantly filled with other people's dramas and breaking news, there's literally no acoustic space for your own intuition to be heard.
She started seeing these patterns, these angel numbers, 11.11, 2.27, 3.33, and you can roll your eyes at that, but to me it just proves she was finally paying attention.
It's pattern recognition. The brain is a pattern-seeking machine. When it's not overwhelmed by the chaos of the internet, it starts finding patterns in the real world. It's a sign her brain was resetting itself, tuning back into her actual reality.
And she even tuned back into her plants, her ZZ plant and her snake plant. She noticed new growth on them.
And she apologized to them for ignoring them.
I love that. It sounds funny, but it's an act of reconnecting with living things. Digital things are dead pixels. Plants, animals, people. They're alive.
And she found that by deleting social media, she became more social.
That was the great paradox of the whole thing. She said her conversations in real life were better. She was more talkative, more present with her boyfriend.
Because she wasn't planning validation during the conversation. She wasn't thinking about her notifications. She was just there.
But there was a flip side to it. She realized some of her friendships were, well, a little fake.
Fragile is the word she used. Some connections only existed through the app. If she wasn't replying to their story or sending a meme, the relationship just evaporated.
That has to be a painful realization.
It is, but it's also efficient. It filters out the noise. It leaves you with the people who actually want to know you, not just your avatar.
So she gets to Monday night. The week is over. She's survived the withdrawal, the boredom, the crash. And she makes a decision.
She's not downloading the apps back.
She calls the internet the void, and she just didn't want to re-enter it. She realized the cost, the anxiety, the comparison, the time theft. It was just too high.
She had this beautiful line. Beautiful people deserve beautiful things.
Yeah. And she realized her nervous system deserves to feel safe.
That phrasing is so key. My nervous system is deserving of feeling safe. We treat our nervous systems like trash cans for the world's stress. We scroll through wars and arguments before we've even brushed our teeth.
Reclaiming that safety is a radical act of self-care. It's not just about saving time. It's about saving your ability to feel safe in your own skin.
And to think your own thoughts.
Which brings us to the big so what for everyone listening. We've talked about the theory of idolatry and worshiping these false versions of ourselves. We've talked about the dopamine mechanism, and we've seen proof of life on the other side.
The takeaway isn't that you have to delete everything today. It's about recognizing what the algorithm is doing to your internal landscape. It's replacing your emotions with programmed reactions. It's replacing your stillness with profitable noise.
The source leaves us with this idea of the algorithm of the mind, that if we feed our brains nothing but algorithmic content, our thoughts eventually become algorithmic too. We lose our originality.
We become echo chambers for a code we didn't write.
So here's the challenge I want to leave you with. It's a question of missed connections. If the divine or your best idea or your intuition cannot speak through noise, what message did you miss today because you were too busy planning validation?
What hummingbird flew right past your head while you were watching a stranger run on a screen?
That's the question, and I think the answer is worth putting the phone down for. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Take care of your nervous system. We'll see you next time.